Jeff Scott didn't have the best first season at USF. However, we are looking at a team that could surprise people in the AAC. He did a lot of damage in the transfer portal, brought a ton of players in from that area, and you have some intriguing returning production, returning talent that could make USF maybe not a team that competes for a conference championship, but this could be a team that presents challenges and surprises a lot of people and maybe pulls off a few upsets here and there in 2022. If you're looking for a team to, if you're buying low, selling high, USF probably is that team that you could take a flyer on, and they're going to be an exciting team to watch this year. At number one, we start on the defensive side of the ball. Dwayne Boyles, and actually we'll just go top two. Antonio Greer and Dwayne Boyles are the two best. If you could say they're the two best linebackers in the AAC, and you'd have a good argument. These two know how to make plays. They're very talented. They know how to get around to the football. And honestly, it hasn't changed. This has been a multi-year operation for both of them. You're looking at two that combined for 157 tackles last year, 12.5 tackles for loss, 3 sacks, 4 interceptions, 2 apiece. These two just know how to make plays. And when you're looking at a team that is looking to take a step forward in a conference full of offenses, if your defense can find a way to take a step up, then that's going to be huge. And USF has that talent that can do that in both Boyles and Greer. And it doesn't matter who else is going to join them. They did add a bunch of talent, like I said, in the transfer portal. One of them will be at linebacker and will be a starter. We won't talk about Houston today, but he's a guy that will step up and be the third option for this defense. Again, 2 leaders at the second level, and they're very talented. They know how to make plays, and that's going to be a tandem that you really want to watch if you are a Bulls fan or just if you're an offensive coordinator trying to figure out what USF does well defensively. Another tandem coming up here, we'll start with Jaren Mangum, the former transfer himself. There's a lot of transfers on this team. You're looking at a guy who really solidified himself as a starter last year to the tune of 671 yards and 15 touchdowns. The guy simply knows how to get the football in the end zone. He knows how to make plays, and he's that big running back that USF really likes to utilize. If you're looking at what this offense is going to try to do, they're trying to get more explosive plays via the passing game. The running game has kind of not. Then there's still another step they can take, but they kind of solidified themselves in terms of running the football. Jaren Mangum is a big part of that. He's a bruising running back who can make guys pay, and we saw that even against Florida, against the best competition. He knows how to make things happen. He knows how to fall forward and pick up extra yards. And then when you're sick of him, you get his friend in the backfield. Brian Betty, an absolute dynamic, explosive, fast, you name it, whatever word you want to use. Brian Betty is a guy who's going to make you pay if you give him space, whether that's at running back or even at kick return. Kick return is where he's the most dangerous. If you give him space at running back, if he's able to figure things out and be kind of the lightning to Jaren Mangum's thunder, this is going to be a dynamic duo in the backfield. The running back position is set. Even if you look at the depth behind them, there's guys that are going to be solid as third and fourth options if they do get hurt for some reason. But again, if Batiste able to figure things out, if they're able to get him the football in space, this team is going to be a nightmare to stop. And honestly, Jeff Scott knows how to coach an offense. He knows how to call plays. He's going to find a way to get Batiste in space. It's just hard to have that much speed at one person and not get them the football. Number 5, Demetrius Harris. The offensive line is probably going to be slept on this year, especially if the explosive playmakers that are at the skill positions take step forward. And honestly, if it's kind of how it works. When you have an explosive offense, you tend to ignore the offensive line. They don't tend to get a ton of love. Harris is a returning starter with a ton of experience. The offensive line is a huge part of this offense, And with the returning experience that they have, it's like I said, it's going to be hard to find people that are going to give them a lot of credit. But if they do take a step forward, it's because those skill position players found some consistency, but also this offensive line found ways to get them open. Quarterback Timmy Mclean is an interesting prospect. Now, I do understand that Gary Bohannon is coming in and he is going to challenge McLean for the starting spot. So really, you could put Bohannon or McLean here, and there would be no arguments. Bohannon was decent at Baylor. Now, it's, he did bring them to a conference championship last year, so I will give you that. However, when you watched him play, you didn't really get the sense that he was ever going to take over a game or dominate. So he's coming into a new system. He has to learn it in the summer. He has to challenge Timmy McLean, who, if you watch Timmy's game, I really like what he does. Now, he's as a passer, there are obviously things he needs to work on. 55.3% completion percentage isn't ideal, and that's something you would like to improve. At 5 touchdowns to 7 interceptions is another thing you'd like to improve. But he is a guy who I think has a lot more poise than a lot of people give him credit for. If you look at some of the throws that he was able to make last year, he's a player that can keep himself composed in the pocket, and he can make some nice throws. It just comes down to now he has a full year of experience under his belt. He knows what to expect from this offense, and even though there is going to be a quarterback battle, I think that this is a dynamic dual threat that can make plays with both his arm and his legs. And if he's able to take a step forward in his development as a passer, then you're looking at an offense that's extremely scary. I think he's a better athlete than Bohannon is, but Bohannon has that experience and he's more of an accurate passer than McLean was last year. Really, it just comes down who can throw the ball more consistently, because when you look at the talent they have returning at receiver, this is going to be an offense that's going to be super explosive. Jeff Scott's going to find a way to get playmakers in space, and he doesn't care who the quarterback is, especially if all they need to do is distribute the football to those guys. Safety Matthew Hill, again, this defense really was slept on last year. I mean, when you go 2-10, there's obviously things going wrong. However, this team just, the more I look at it, the more potential I see. The more excitement I see, the more things that could go right. There's so many things that you have to like about this team in terms of potential. Now, obviously, they have to take that step forward. Matthew Hill is one of those guys that he's a big player. He's going to be able to throw his size around. And when you look at the production, you probably don't see anything that says this guy is an all AAC type player. This guy is going to be a star. But I think he has the size. When you look at some of the things that he did, again, he's learning a new system. He's learning a new position. He came from Auburn as a wide receiver, flipped over to safety. You're not going to just find that transition overnight. So this is a defense that's going to need some time to take a step forward, but they have the talent, they have the experience, and they have the leadership to get that done. Now we get into, there's a lot of pairings here. We saw the linebackers at the top, then the running backs. Wide receiver has another pairing. Really, there's a lot of wide receivers on this team that are exciting, but there's 2 transfers that we'll talk about. Now, we will mention that Xavier Weaver is going to be fun to watch, but Aju is a guy who comes from Clemson, follows Jeff Scott from Clemson to USF, and when you first heard about Aju, you knew that people loved what he could do. You knew that they liked his frame, you knew they liked his explosive play. He just didn't get a chance really to see the field, and for whatever reason, whether that was him, whether it was the coaching staff, whatever, it just didn't work out. So now he comes to USF, who is looking for explosive playmakers at receiver. He gets that chance, and he is just one of the guys that really you need to keep an eye on, because he was highly coveted coming out of high school. He's not too far removed from that, and that's something that means that you're going to look at a guy who's going to have a lot of potential impact on this offense. Khafre Brown, if the name Brown sounds familiar, the North Carolina transfer, comes in to be another explosive playmaker. This is a guy who in 2020 averaged 22.5 yards per catch. And if you remember his brother Diami, that's kind of what he can do. And now it's just a matter of being able to do that consistently. Same thing as you. This is, you're going to hear it a lot, is can they do this consistently? Can they do this? Can they do that? Cofford, Brown, and Ajuaju have a chance to be very explosive, and if they are, this USF offense is going to help elevate this team to another level. And finally, safety Micah LaPointe. He and Matthew Hill, like I said, they're, again, another pairing. These two have the potential to be very exciting to watch. They showed flashes at times of what they can do, and I think that's very exciting. But just like the rest of the team, they have to be able to do it consistently. If they're going to take another step, if they're going to surprise people, consistency is the key. And they have a lot of guys that have a lot of potential. And if they add consistency to that, this is a dangerous football team.